You've shared that Sprout has built a reputation for having a very intentional culture and one that values boundaries, creativity, space to think. Um, what have been some of the practices? And just recently, I know we were just chatting around how you've really had a nourishing experience there, and that's made you rethink how you show up and maybe even how you work. And
Mhm.
so, what are some of the practices that you've seen there that help teams really stay innovative without burning out?
Yeah. 2 immediately come to mind. I think traditionally, a lot of folks who have worked in the marketing space, specifically when you're dealing with customers and clients, there is not really a clear sandbox. So you're kind of on your tippy toes waiting for something to come down the line, which makes it really incredibly difficult to focus on what is in front of you right now because you're like thinking about what if somebody asked me to do this? Sprout has been really intentional in the work that we've done where there are packages that you buy. Now you can buy one that's custom, right? But this is a larger deal. But these packages allow us to be really intentional with our customers, and every single customer that comes through our door follows the same exact process, whether you are the biggest company in the world or you are a startup. And those processes allow our team to focus on the task at hand, think really critically about it, take the time that is needed so that the deliverable or whatever output that that customer is getting is one meaningful, impactful, and helps better their overall social program. So I have really appreciated that about Sprout. And I think the second piece is Sprout, when you join the company, you don't hit the ground running. They're very intentional about their onboarding process, even for managers too. You can, as an entry level, right out of college person, sit in the same onboarding as a C suite, right? Everyone is getting that same foundational information about the company. And you get these really good opportunities to chat with your cohort, and then when that onboarding is done, there is a steady flow of work that you're doing versus some other places. And I get some places are a bit more lean and they're not a developed tech company like Sprout where you hit the ground running day one. And it becomes hard to understand the philosophy of the company that you're at. And ultimately at Sprout, we're not selling an individual that you're working with, right? We know that people will take whatever platform makes them successful across their entire career. So everyone has enough time, has enough training and enablement to be aligned on that what that philosophy is. And so because of that, like any customer who's working with my team, like there's a 98% chance renewal with Sprout. Like that is absolutely crazy. Like our customers are unbelievably happy because no matter who they are talking to on the team, there is consistency. They know exactly what they're going to get, and they can trust that we have the right team and person to do that work.
It sounds to me that being really intentional about the culture, being very clear around what is the type of culture we have, but also how we do the work, creating really clear processes where possible, and also having a chance to create connection across the organization is something that's really important. Allows you to connect with the company as a whole. And I hear that that's something that you've gone through, and I think right now it's so important to prioritize that sense of communication, transparency, and trust. I think this is something that's coming up more and more and more right now, where even if it's difficult conversations that are being had, even if it's difficult information that needs to be shared, if that transparency is there, it it helps and that candor is there, it really helps create that sense of trust and that ability to work through it. We might feel that we're protecting the people by not saying things or what have you, but by skillfully providing the right amount of information, I think it'd be a game changer. When I hear about your team and how much retention there is around the clients that you serve, I know that one of your leadership philosophies is around centers around creating environments where where people can do their best work. And as you engage with your team members, what does that look like in practice? Like, how do you show up, and how do you approach creating those types of environments?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, like when I met my team and I meet any new person that I'm going to be working with, is like, you have feedback for me, you have uncomfortable things to say to me. I am all ears. Everything goes both ways. Like, I am here if you want to talk about the lunch you had that was great or wasn't great, or if you want to deep dive into a deck, I'm absolutely here. I think meeting your team where they're at is essential. Some people love a more hands-on approach, and that helps them creatively think and talk through problems. Other folks really want to take away the issue and then come with you to the final solution. So I also make that known to the team. I'm happy to work in whatever way they choose to work. And I really value when I have that as leaders. And I have been like, I work, can be a little funky. Sometimes at 1 a.m., I get like a crazy kick of like a light bulb moment. And like, I want to have the flexibility that if I have a light bulb moment at 1 a.m. and I'm like, I'm going to crank something out for 2 hours, I might want to start at 10 a.m. Like, I don't want to be on at 8 a.m. after cranking out something. So it looks different for everyone. But I think going back to your point of transparency and phrasing it in the right way is really important. And just laying out the cards on the table and saying, here is how I am as a leader. What do you need from a leader? And it can change. And you have the right to also say, you know, last 6 months were difficult for me. And I really just wanted to be more hands off, but things are better for me now and I want to connect more. You have the right to change your working approach with me as well.
I think that comes back to that sense of communication and um, really being purposeful at creating those safe spaces to share what your needs are, to share viewpoints that maybe aren't what other people's have, or that you may feel could be not only contradictory, but that could rub people the wrong way, and just saying, hey, it's fine. Like, we need to hear this now, right? Because things are changing so fast, and the faster we can share important information, and especially diverse viewpoints, is so important. And I think this goes as well to what you were sharing around really fostering that sense of diversity within the team. It's so important. Cultural
Mhm,
diversity, gender diversity. The research shows, out of collective intelligence research in MIT, there's this concept called collective intelligence, the performance potential of a team. They found that the amount of women on a team directly equates to increased performance across a team when you actually have that gender diversity. And it's so important within tech companies, especially, I think, to understand that, right? And then also diversity in terms of cultures, diversity in terms of perspectives, so important to foster conversational turn taking, right?
mhm.
So to be able to not have one person take up all the airspace, so important to hear from people who perhaps are a little bit more quiet. And also, I think so important, and I think this is a little bit to what you were talking about earlier on, to intuit the inner lives of your colleagues. So they call it social perspective taking. And I think you sort of need that in social media, right? It's to like, hey, what are people thinking about? And to really embrace that empathy. It seems like that's like what you're pointing to around what creating that environment where people can do their best work just sort of embodies.
I mean, absolutely. It can be as little as like, do you need to have your one-on-one with your camera off? That is okay. Like, it's for me, I've always found, like, it is the littlest things. If someone is stressing out that they're not feeling good and they can't log in, like, that is a major problem. You need to feel that work-life balance. If you don't feel it, you're not gonna show up, and it's not advantageous to me as a leader. If I thought just about myself and the outputs that I'm looking for my team, and I wanted to be the most strategic leader and I didn't care about people, it's still the same way of working, in my opinion. I just happen to really care about people, and I want people to be happy and feel heard and feel really happy about showing up to work. We spend the majority of our days with our work colleagues. We do. I talk to my work colleagues more than my own family sometimes. I need to have a good relationship. I need to understand them. I need to be able to respect their boundaries, be able to listen to them should they need it. It's super integral to every working environment.
You were speaking around how at Sprout, there's this very intentional approach towards the processes and how you work so that there's more balance. I think in how work is distributed and when all clients, for example, go through this similar process. In a previous conversation we had, you shared that you can't really turn it off in this industry. You can't
Mhm,
really turn the tech off in this industry, and that maybe you shouldn't.
mhm,
And it's such an interesting take, especially in a world that the concept of digital detox is really coming out there, the attention economy, right? Where there's this monetizing our attention through
mhm.
some of these platforms, and how there's this sort of purposeful disconnecting is in some circles being prioritized.
Mhm.
So maybe could you just build a little bit on that? How do you sustain your energy, your creativity, your mental focus when the work itself is so intertwined with your digital life?
That's a great question, and I've probably spent especially the last maybe 3 years trying to figure out what is that healthy balance. I like social. That's what I got in this game. Like, I studied PR. That was what I intended to do, and then I just got a miraculous social media internship when Instagram was just starting to kinda be hot, and I was like, "Wait, this is really fun." So, I mean, you don't always get to do what you love, right? But let's say for the sake of it, let's talk about social. Um, I think one of the ways in which you can be always on and understand how the industry is changing and dynamic and be able to keep up with what's really important without losing yourself and being, terminally online, because we want to be chronically online, maybe not terminally, right? Um, is being choiceful with the content that you watch, right? Like, I won't lie, like I love a good TikTok drama, right? I love it. It's fun to watch it play out. But if I start watching too much of it, then my entire page becomes that. And then I get really worn out because I'm listening to things that are like they kinda suck, like, I'm like, "Dang, like, that sucks that that happened to you." So, what I have found, especially I think since we last talked and thinking about how I'm more intentional with how I'm staying up to date is, like, noticing when I'm watching or absorbing content that isn't fruitful to my career, doesn't really shape the industry, right? Like that I'm talking like TikTok drama, like, wedding TikTok drama is my one that I used to love. It is really hard to watch all the time. So, I was like, I wanna be on social, I wanna scroll, I wanna enjoy the content that I was enjoying before. So, if I catch myself watching too many, I need to scroll. And it's a boundary that you have to set within yourself, just like you would set a boundary in a relationship with somebody. But to the point of being you do have to be always on. Like every 3 months, we are talking something new in social. Like not let's take trends outside of it and those like very reactive social trends. We are talking about new things, new ways of reaching people. Platforms release new features and there's new platforms that come up. There are platforms that could disappear. And so you do need to stay on. I would also encourage people to build relationships with professionals outside of their workplace because I think that's really helpful. And so, like, while it's important to relationship build while you are at a job, it's really important to keep those relationships going should you guys not work together anymore. Because then you get these different perspectives. Then also talking about it doesn't feel like a job because it's not on the company's time where you're like, okay, client came to us with this issue or this ask about this new feature, right? I have found, especially since being, newer and switching roles and companies that it's been really refreshing to talk to some of my old colleagues about what's going on in social. And I have felt Like, "Oh, this is, like, something I really like, and it doesn't feel like work."